What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast that is a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, coming to you with another Talk of the Tundra off-season podcast. This time, we're going to dive a little bit into the Packers making a big splash in the coaching hire for their defensive coordinator. And to talk all about that with me is my lovely friend and gorgeous co-host, Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well on this fine, undisclosed evening. I didn't want to say what day it is, but everybody knows usually when we record.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Um, I got a little pizzazz. I'm gonna plug Cruising for a Bruising early. Go check out Cruising for a Bruising because they're gonna have a Corbin Burns trade probably pretty soon, and that'll be fun to
Yeah.
listen to. So I've got a lot of energy, I'm real punchy. Jordan Corbin Burns isn't my favorite baseball team anymore. That makes me very happy. Pow pow pow. Anyways, the big news of
Brains reaction.
I listen, man. Briefly, Brewers talk on this
Of
Packers
course.
podcast.
We're
Briefly,
we're in the off season.
I was very, very sick of watching that man pout on the mound. I just didn't care for his tantrums, his attitude, his overall demeanor. I thank you for the Cy Young years. Thank you for the great years of pitching. So long, farewell. I bid you adieu.
Avita Zane.
That's right. And that's that. Anyways, 1265 Lombardi Avenue has a new defensive coordinator in Jeff Halfey from Boston College University. I think it's
Wait,
actually
wait, wait. How do you say his last name?
I said Halfley.
Isn't it Hafley?
Halfley. Yeah, there's not a first L. There's not a first L. Jeff
Yeah.
Halfley.
There
I'll
we go.
we'll get there.
Okay.
It's just a weird name. Sorry, Jeff. You just got a weird name. By way of Boston College, where he had a 22-26 record, formerly the co-defensive coordinator at Ohio State in one of their better defensive years, formerly the, I believe, cornerbacks coach for the San Francisco 49ers under Robert Saleh. Um, Notably, not like I should say not friends. There was a lot of like rumors going around Packers Twitter that Matt LaFleur and um, Jeff, I'm gonna say
Hafley.
Halfley. I gotta get in the rhythm of saying it. Halfley, um, were friends. They did not overlap at all anywhere coaching, but his good friends Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh knew him quite well. So
And his brother,
and his brother
Mike.
Mike. So not a nepotism hire for sure, not, but just kind of like, do you like your friend? Is he a good coach? Should we hire him? Kind of thing, which is interesting. But yeah, he. We'll get a little bit more into it in a second here, but definitely a name that came out of nowhere, right? Like we thought. I don't think he wasn't even close to being mentioned
Nope.
in our roundup of possible candidates. Like this guy came out of nowhere.
No, shout out to Bart Winkler for his hilarious tweet of it's clearly in the camcorder setting, so you can see the date. I think it was like November or something, 2023. And he just goes on and on about like this Hafley guy, this Boston College coach. The Packers might be looking for a D coordinator this offseason. Maybe he's the guy. I don't know. Like the joke is that he, you know, performed it after the fact. To your point, yeah, this is such a stunning drop because one, it was Wednesday night at like 5, so we're in the Wednesday night dump zone, hour. I have my push notifications on for NFL Insiders, so I have Schefter and Ian Rappaport, and so I see officially official. So I'm like, oh, maybe it's some the Washington still hadn't filled their head coaching vacancy at the time. So I was thinking is that, and I was like, who the hell is this dude? Who's Jeff Hafley? Like Boston College, what's going on? And then of course you deep dive into it. So yeah, this is like it's not the fact that he wasn't on the radar, it's the fact that he wasn't even in the league. You know what I mean? Like this is not a detriment to what he is and what he could be with the Packers. But all of our focus on the search that was clearly tight knit, like even the details that had come out in the last week since Joe Barry got fired, basically since interviews started rolling in. Brandon Staley, we were talking about this last week, where Rob Demovsky reports that Brandon Staley's not a candidate. Next day, literally
After we
or
recorded.
after we recorded that, Brandon Staley's the first guy to get interviewed. So yeah, this whole process of the interviewing and who is up for it, the candidates, what may have not been promised or alleged to have been promised to coaching candidates. It was a wild week, but obviously Packers got their guy, and specifically Matt LaFleur got his guy. So from there, I think just it's nice to not think about the process of it for right now, because certainly come playoff time. I'm already talking about playoffs. Come regular season, and if things aren't gelling the way that we hope that they will, we'll kind of look back and be like, what the hell happened here? And I would certainly be interested in what LaFleur says if we hear from him anytime soon. Obviously, with the offseason, who knows? But I would like to hear what he identified throughout the process because I do think it's really interesting that he went to the college route, even if I would not consider Hafley as a college guy. I think his roots in the NFL are very clear and very that's where everything that he ran kind of centered, you know,
Yeah.
whether it's Boston College or Ohio State.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely a big swing, right? Like I think it was Peter Bukowski wrote an article for the Leap Six or whatever that blog his blog is called. Um, but wrote about how it was pretty close to the chest. This entire process was mostly because he opined that Matt LaFleur didn't want to have to one get embarrassed, two because of if the candidates who he was interviewing came out and leaked, and that they didn't take the job, similar to what happened with Jim Leonard the first time around, then that's just like he didn't want to go through all that again, where he has to answer questions about, well, why do you think Jim Leonard said no to the job? He's a hometown kid. He worked for Wisconsin. Yada yada yada. I just don't think that is what Matt LaFleur wanted to have happen, and so I think that's why it was. We didn't hear a whole lot about it. I think it was remember if I get names right, it was Chris Parker
Christian
um
Parker, yeah.
and Brandon Staley were the only two that we heard about getting interviewed, and I'm sure they interviewed.
No,
Who was the other one?
Bobby Babich or Babick. He eventually got promoted to Buffalo's D
They did
coordinator.
interview him.
They did.
Okay, I know he
Um,
was like his name was floated around. I had forgotten and missed that he had interviewed.
Chris Orr, who eventually got the Baltimore D
Another
coordinator job.
well, I don't. Is that he got the D coordinator job? He
There
didn't.
was there was rumors that he was going to go with Mike McDonald to
To
Seattle, and
Seattle.
then Ravens. You know,
I missed that too.
yeah.
Um. So regardless of it all, clearly that this was kept close to the chest. I think for that reason, as well as if these guys are getting promoted to their own teams D coordinator positions, I wonder what that's like and um, where Jeff Hafley really fell on the rankings of where they like who they wanted as a D coordinator. It's not worrisome. It's I'm just skeptical. Like I know we haven't seen a lick of his defense. We don't know a whole lot about it. Like I don't we know like some things about it. He loves to play press man on the corners. Like that's a big plus for me. He does a lot of stunts and sends backers and blitzers through the same gap, which is an interesting wrinkle I don't think we ever saw from Joe Barry over the last two seasons. And I think he just has the acumen to really make corners better, especially if you're playing press. Like you know me, I'm a fan of press man. I don't really like giving 10 yards of cushion to a receiver getting off his route, and so that I'm a fan of. What I'm not so certain I'm a fan of is the lackluster record at Boston College. He brought the Boston College Eagles to bowls in three of his four seasons at Boston College, but his record there was 22-26, and I don't think I could name you a whole lot of Boston College um, graduates from his time there. AJ Dillon is one, but he was not there the same time as
No,
Jeff Hafley.
exactly. I could name them for you.
Go for it.
So first year under Jeff Hafley, um, a familiar name. Isaiah McDuffie got drafted by the Green Bay Packers in the sixth round. of the 2021 NFL draft. Hunter Long also got drafted by the Miami Dolphins that same draft in the third round, a tight end. Zion Johnson, a first round guard last year, and then, or sorry, in 2022, and then last year, probably easily maybe one of the best Boston College players ever, Zay Flowers.
Oh, I forgot about Zay Flowers.
Zay
I forgot.
Flowers,
I
yeah.
forgot he went to Boston College.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And if you
Notably,
really think about it too, Zay Flowers is probably a player that Halfley recruited.
recruited. Yeah. Notably, 2021 when Isaiah McDuffie was drafted. I think it was this ensuing season after McDuffie got drafted.
Yeah,
But
post.
Hafley's defense in 21 was third in passing yards per game allowed, the top 30 in the 30 in the country in total defense, red zone defense, first downs allowed, third down rate, team passing efficiency, and defensive TDs, and led the ACC in fewest penalties allowed. That's now 2 years ago. It's 2 years removed. So like, I think the coaching ability is there, and I don't think the Boston College defense was that um, this past season. I'm looking at some of their stats here, and they're fine. They allowed on average 385 yards per game. Um, didn't create a whole lot of turnovers. Looks like 1.3 a game ish. So that's better than I bet you it's better than the Packers, honestly. Um, Packers enforce a lot of turnovers, but I'm skeptical. I don't know a whole lot about it. I'm open to be persuaded and just like open to see how he goes. Like I'm not gonna say it's bad after 3 games because this is a process, as we all know. I'm just would have I needed to do some educating of his defensive style and watch some Boston College tape and see what the schemes looked like. Frankly,
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest position that we'll judge him from just because you're the head coach. There, previously, you had 1 year of being a D coordinator, and it was a position that he held alongside a co-defense coordinator. So you have to answer for everything if you're the head coach of a not a top flight program in college football. So we'll be honest about that.
yep,
And coming at a time when all these things, a pandemic comes through and NIL comes through and all this stuff. I know there's been a lot of talk about why he already left and the frustrations of the demands that that job asks for. I think that is it's really hard to just be a college football coach at a program that is not the elite of the elite. You mean they're the ACC, Boston College. I can't remember the last time they were maybe like a powerhouse in terms of like vying for
the Matt Ryan
what
led Boston College Golden
I was gonna say. It's
Eagles.
probably Matt Ryan or even like mid 2000s
Yeah.
of like being up there. So for me, like it, the one thing it's honestly kind of irrelevant to me because it is so dependent on recruiting.
Oh yeah.
It is so dependent on the the roster builds are so different. Whereas now, like what I think where I'm not going to give slack is like how can these things that he's was building defensively in college with lesser talent, obviously lesser blue chip players that he had coached with Ohio State.
Right.
Like that year, if you look at all the stuff of like, oh, Ohio State improved from being like 72nd overall the year before
Yep.
to being like like the best defense in all of the country.
Yeah. They're
And it's like it's
his
Ohio State.
yeah his one season at Ohio State they were fourth in scoring at 13 points a game. Uh, First in total defense and 260 yards per game. First in pass defense at 156. Eighth in rush defense at 104. So like from what I understand, he wasn't the play caller. He was more of like the coach of the players. And I think I forget what his name was that who was he was co-defensive coordinator with. It starts with an
Oh,
M. I can't
yes.
not remember it. Um, but he was the defensive coordinator calling plays. So that'll be something, a wrinkle to understand with, like, not a wrinkle, it's context to understand with his success at Ohio State.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing to me is like he's ultimately going back to where he is suited. His background is being a defensive backs coach and building up from there. I think that to me is a lot more interesting where he's obviously he has kind of a very blended coaching tree that he's come from. It's not just, oh, look at the Shanahan world. It's like, no, he came under Mike Penn too. Like there is good in that can build different schemes and in the early kind of um fallout from the hire and stuff like that. Flexibility has been a big word that has been preached and all that stuff. I think for me, like ultimately, like with his background being so extensive and the types of players that he's worked with, like Richard Sherman, Darrell Revis, a late career Rondé Barber when he made his way into the NFL with Tampa Bay. It reorients the kind of emphasis with the defense for the Packers that I'm really interested in. Like we all know that it's about getting after the quarterback, pressures, pressures, pressures. That will start and end any possession in terms of, or hopefully sometimes end any possession because that's how you get to the quarterback and everything like that. What if you set that as the example? What the Packers do and the investment level since the Jair and Darnell Savage drafts in terms of safety, cornerback, and everything like that. Like Douglas was a mid-season pickup waiver wire guy. They not skirted, but they skated by with starting a seventh round rookie this year,
Yep.
a practice squad guy that was a special teamer guy that eventually, because they traded Razul and everything like that, they had to start him. They went through a whole cycle of safeties this offseason or last offseason and stuck with the guy that they picked up his 5th-year option for. And then everybody was like, are you sure? And they got to the divisional round. They almost got to the championship game. But we all know the process of that. Like that was not reliable. That was not. They was not even consistent game to game throughout this
At,
regular season.
exactly.
So for me, I think it's really interesting that LaFleur specifically has keyed in on that and all the talk. I mean, there's a lot of questions about who's going to be coming back to this team, especially in that in the secondary, because the safeties, literally everybody's free agent or has some contractual ties that the Packers can get out of.
Yeah.
Jair's the only, and Karen Valentine, he's under contract. Jair's like the only like significant piece under contract for multiple years.
I
We'll
think
get into Brian Good
beyond next year, right? They have to
beyond
decide on
next year.
they have to decide on Eric Stokes this May.
Yeah, Eric Stokes has his 5th-year option coming up, which we have already talked about. That's gonna be a no.
Yep.
Jair is the key. It's about elevating him to where he was after the last couple of years. It's about playing to his strengths, what he's longed for. He's still in the prime of his career. He's still very young. He's still all these things. There's a lot more the Packers have to build out the backside of the defense. We can look at all the help that they've done on the front seven and specifically on the edges and obviously interior. But I'm really intrigued by where they could go from here and where Hafley is going to have a lot of reign to build the defense in terms of what they do in the secondary, because that to me, you know, in terms of the pieces that they have to build to keep ascending, keep going forward, taking the next leap with this defense so it fully complements itself as a team. The secondary is going to be key. And everything that comes with it, whether it's just position, whether it's how you line up and everything like that, like it starts with getting people in the building and drafting them, or free agency, which is a possibility. But yeah, I'm looking at Jair, and I'm just looking at the secondary to really kind of be this is where things really shine.
No, strong agree. Strong agree. Like I'm right there with you that this I think this hire I don't want to say hinges on because obviously it hinges on them being good on defense, but with Hafley's cornerback prowess and his ability to coach cornerbacks quite well, like you said, Jair is the guy. If they can make Jair into all pro level Jair again and really lock him in to being that type of lockdown corner and that best corner in the NFL um, ability that he has, I think that's going to be crucial. And like you said, having the ability to coach up Carrington Valentine and Corey Valentine and whatever cornerback they draft in the draft is going to be, I think, really crucial because as of right now, the front four is doing fine. Like the interior defensive line and the edge rushers are doing well. Could they be better? Of course, but I think what is notable about this is that I forget where I saw it or who I saw it from, but it's they are going to allow um they're going to allow Halfley to bring in his own staff if he'd like to.
That is in dispute, but I think that is trending towards that direction. I'm just saying that as we
Okay.
record.
Yes. And so I am of the opinion that that should be the case. There's been it's been a little too chummy around here at Jordan with the position coaches. Like they got rid of the strength and conditioning coach, which I think is a good thing. Um, they had fired somebody else, and I can't remember who it is.
Barry.
Is that was that the only two?
That was the only two.
Yeah, but the strength and conditioning coach makes sense. They had two players with lingering issues all year long at their top positions between Christian Watson and Eric Stokes. Like from what I've heard around the NFL, this isn't source, but just talk on Twitter and other and other articles.
Source Numac.
It's not sources Numac. Um, is that the Packers strength and conditioning like regimen is outdated. It's like the picture of the old New York Giants athletic trainer, and they all would make jokes about how you would heal an ACL by rubbing butter on it, like that kind of outdated. You know what I'm talking about, or no, or why?
Yeah.
Okay, um, that kind of outdated regimen that just isn't rooted in. It's obviously rooted in modern science, but not like breaking edge, pushing the envelope science to help get players back and performing at their best level when they need to. Evidenced by re-injuries to Christian Watson as often as he did, and Eric Stokes for that matter. And so, bringing in a fresh new staff with this new defensive coordinator hire, I think is a good idea. Like, see what you can do with a new voice in the room, coaching up Devontae Wyatt, coaching up Carl Brooks and Colby Wooden. See what you can mix up with for linebackers. Like, Quay Walker is doing well. I think he has potential to be a really good linebacker. But like, can you find a guy that can speak to Quay Walker to make him just a better version of himself? Same thing with Isaiah McDuffie. Like, this, I think this is a good idea. I don't want the same old for the coaching staff. Like, I think they have opportunities to grow a lot on the defensive side of the ball, and that obviously starts with coaching and how you're able to get the best out of these players.
And to your point, I mean, when they hired Barry, he inherited the
Mike Pettin's,
entire staff
yeah,
at the time.
yep,
So they can really wipe the slate clean and start fresh in terms of getting new, sending a new message and developing players in a different way that, yeah, like people, they're, it's not that they didn't have success stories or people didn't, you know, develop over the last couple of years, but I do think there's more good in kind of finding new people to
mm-hmm.
kind of take this forward because if you already started at the top with hey we want to go to a different direction, why wouldn't that trickle down?
Yep. I totally agree. I'm right there with you. Like it bringing in a guy to be the guy, but then not hire the people that he wants to hire to help implement that defense, I think is like cutting yourself off at the knees. Like you're just you're selling yourself short of what your potential defense could be with the guy you hired to make it good, right? Like I think that's just
Yeah.
to me it's common sense. I get the devil's advocate argument of that being maybe you don't want the first year NFL defensive coordinator to hire all of his new staff. You don't have a proven track record of how you can lead at the NFL level. He has like college defensive coordinator experience and he has head coach experience at the college level, but they don't have that NFL experience at this level of coaching. And so that's where I'm just like, screw it, let him hire his own team or his own staff, and make the vision of what he wants his defense to be come to fruition through them. That's where I'm at. Anything else on Jeff Hafley? Do we have a introductory press conference time yet?
No, I not yet. I don't think.
I'd imagine we went pretty soon. You had
Yeah.
mentioned like as soon as we talked to Matt LaFleur, I'd bet you it's the combine. So
Oh yeah, that's good. That's a good
about
shout.
about a
Yeah,
month. It's allegedly, sort of secretively, Jordan. It's February 1st.
it is.
An indiscriminate time. So about a month away from the combine. I think the combine's usually at the end of the month, beginning of March kind of time.
Leap year too.
It is a leap year. We get an extra day. We get an extra day in
A
there.
Lambo leap year.
A lamb. That's right. They better do something that day. That's just like such easy social content. If
Oh yeah,
they
I'll
yeah,
do it for you, Packers. Hire me, please.
hire me please. Um. So, with all that being said, we'll hear about from Matt LaFleur soon enough. If they don't have an introductory press conference for Jeff Hafley, if not at the combine in like a month. So that's that. Um, Nothing else, Jordan, or should we move on to the GM and his press conference that he had?
Let's move on to Monsieur Brian Gutekunst.
All right. Um, Full disclosure, I did not get a chance to watch this, so we're gonna let Jordan drive this conversation, and I'm gonna react like the fan that I am of Jordan doing monologues, but react along the way.
Yeah, Brian Gutekunst had his end of season press conference today, Thursday. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about. It was a. Let's just get this out of the way. It was a different tenor than the last time he talked to the press because that was
Post
if
Razul trade
if that was not the day after, it was like the week, right?
for
I'm my
post Razul trade.
yes,
Yeah, I think it was like the day after.
it was the day after. Yes, yes, of course,
Yeah,
yeah,
because we talked about it.
yeah, yes. Um, and the team was 2-6 at the time or wherever it was. Like there were a lot of dire questions, and Brad Kukuc was a lot kept. I think if you go back and listen to us talk about it, we were very just like this guy has it's quite the attitude for a team that doesn't know what it's doing right now. And then now that vindication has been made on multiple fronts, he was a lot more upbeat and talking about things very candidly. But it started with Jordan Love, and it was very obvious that he and Jordan Love and his representation, they're going to work out a new deal this year. Obviously, rules prevent that from happening before, I believe, May 1st of this year. But it's clear that both sides are wanting to extend this further, continue this partnership together because, why wouldn't it?
I sure hope so.
Um, exactly. The next big topic of discussion was about Jair Alexander. Um, Kunst was very happy with how things kind of resolved itself post coin flip, post suspension. Those things are difficult. This is me speaking for Brian Gutekunst. These are his words. Those things are difficult and those things are tough, but at the end of the day, it allowed all of us to kind of reset and really, I was really proud of the way that Jair responded to that and he really helped us moving forward. He was immediately asked whether he would entertain trading Jair Alexander during the offseason, which he flatly said no.
Which big fan of.
Big fan of. I know at times I've lost my cool with Jair, and it was very clear
Yeah,
with
I mean, I don't think you're I don't think you're wrong for it.
no. And I think it's very obvious that people within the organization were
Packerland,
kind of Packerland were kind of reaching a wit's end, so they felt that they had to, you know,
step in.
yes, clearly. And yeah, we're better for it for right now, and obviously big things are coming ahead, hopefully for Jair as he
Yeah.
continues to bounce back.
I think also trading Jair just puts them in a horrendous spot in the secondary. Like,
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, we talked about it after the Razul trade.
right? It's just him. If they if
It's
they, if they trade Jair, they're running out the last year of Eric Stokes, depending on how what his injury was. We never found that out after he went on IR late in the season, and then
it was,
um,
I believe, his hamstring
it was hamstring, not again, but
again.
so Eric Stokes recovering from another injury, then Carrington Valentine and Corey Valentine. Like it's fine. The Corey Valentine and Carrington Valentine did well, but to trot them out as your 1 and 2 against some of the best receivers in football isn't tenable, obviously, and they're not picking high enough in the draft to really get a premium rookie cornerback that could hold their weight. Like they won't be able to take probably either of the Alabama cornerbacks, Khalil McKinstry and the other guy who has a less cool name. Same thing with Cooper DeJean. Like they're probably not going to be able to draft him out of Iowa, and so at 25, you're kind of in a weird zone of getting like maybe a top guy, maybe you're starting cornerback of the future. But look at Jair. They drafted Jair, I think 18th, right, Jordan? 18th, 13th, something like that.
18th, he actually might have been 20s.
They drafted Jair and Savage the same year. I think it was Jair first, then Savage. And I think one was teens and one was early 20s.
18th, you're correct.
Let's
2018.
go! No,
Savage is the
no.
following year because he came with Rashawn Gary.
What pick was Jair
18th.
in 2018? Got it. Got it.
There you
I
go.
thought I thought we were having miscommunication.
18 18.
Got it. Regardless, they're picking 25 this year. That's I think that's just too far back along with the corner or the teams that are ahead of them that need corner help as well. Like I just don't think they'll be able to be in a position to draft one of the top corners, which is unfortunate because they need one.
We'll
So
see.
yeah, we'll see. We'll get way more into draft prospects later into the off season. But my the point about is if you're trading Jair, what are you really doing? Unless you're trading Jair to get to like pick 10 or pick 15, along with
Yeah.
picks next year and things like that. Like they would need a haul for it to make it worth it for this year because we're at the point now where okay, Jordan Love is cheap. We need to reallocate money towards pieces that are going to help winning while Jordan Love is cheap. And
Yep.
trading Jair helps with that, but makes the team, I think, for sure worse in the short term.
Yeah.
Sorry,
And yeah.
go ahead.
No, it's okay. Next subject went to Anders Carlson in
Oh,
the topic of bringing in another kicker throughout the year. I think you're going to be very surprised with this answer.
I probably will be.
To quote Goody, as we went through the season, we were committed to going through the ups and downs of what a lot of rookie kickers go through. Certainly, what Anders went through is no different than what a lot of guys go through. I think towards the end of the season and when we got to the playoffs, if there was a veteran option out there, we would have considered it, but there wasn't. He was the best option by far, and we're really excited about where he's going. I thought that was a very interesting answer. I think it was very easy to be like, well, obviously, he didn't really focus on in an sorry, he didn't really focus on the obviously how this his season ended. But if you're going by the line of, hey, we rode or died with our rookies and second year players all year long at premium positions too, including our quarterback. Why would we deviate away from that with our kicker? Just throwing that out there.
Robbie Gould is available. Is all I'm saying. You make that face, Jordan. I want you to think about
How old is Robbie Gould right now?
40.
Really?
40. That's what I'm
I would have
saying,
thought he was
dog.
older.
That's what I'm saying.
That was
Like,
very ageist of me.
that's right. Um, I wouldn't have like. I think going into the year, it's a poor choice, but I he had a PAT percentage of 98%. He had a field goal percentage of 84.5 last year. Like I I don't. It's obviously not amazing, but I think what was honors in like the 60s. Let me double check, but I don't know. I'm not saying that they didn't do their due diligence on a new kicker. I just think the idea of um, Anders was at 81, so higher than 60s, like I had presumed. Um, the idea that there wasn't one out there, I think, is a little bit of gloss to make it look like they did their due diligence because you could always find a kicker.
You can always find a kicker
But like,
to find a good one when you don't know.
right? But like they had like, I think Ryan Suckup got picked up at one point. Robbie Gould is available because he never got picked up. I think Randy Bullock was bouncing around. Not that he's something to be desired. He's fine, but I forget if Brett Maher, the former Cowboys kicker, was out there or if he got signed
He
somewhere.
was he was on the Rams and then he got cut.
Yep. Oh, I think because he missed. Did he miss kicks? I
He
forget if he
was
missed
missing
kicks.
kicks and then they cut the kicker
Yep.
that they cut for him.
Yeah.
Rams had a
Churn.
lot of yes
Yeah.
this year.
A kicker. But my point being, right, bringing somebody to challenge Anders. Maybe they did and they just didn't get reported, but I don't know. That's just my 6 cents.
Fair. Aaron Jones, Brian Gutekunst is very what's the word? Put it
Adamant.
plainly
Hmm.
that he wants Aaron Jones back. We'd love to have Aaron Jones back. He was such a difference maker when he was out there this year. Changed a lot of the way that we operated when he was healthy, not just on the field. He's such an influential leader in the locker room. He's really the heartbeat of our team. So that's the anticipation that he'll be back.
I'm gonna let you go to the next part because I have opinions that counter both of these.
Immediately after talking about Aaron Jones, Jason Wilde, I can always pick out when he's asking questions because he has a very Brian about David. He's just like that kind of like that voice. I shouldn't be openly talking about Packers personalities and beat writers this way, but this is how I
I mean, you're not wrong.
think
He has
of
a very
things.
distinct cadence.
So about David, um, no, it's about David Bakhtiari and just what the hell the Packers and he are going to do. Um, it was very evident. It was kind of a tone shift of like it wasn't necessarily putting out the same like, yeah, we want David back. It was more of we're to specifically quote Goody. We're still at the beginning stages of everything. Obviously, David has been through a very rough stretch of injuries. He's going through a major surgery, trying to get back to be able to play. So we're monitoring that. I know he's working his tail off, and once we're down the road, we'll see where he's at health wise and make those decisions.
I think he will not be back next year.
I do not think he is back.
Aaron Jones, Goody said, we want him back next year. He is our leader in the clubhouse. Like we value him on our team. As soon as he asked about David Bakhtiari, it got real wishy washy, real fast.
Yeah,
Like, and I'm not gonna say without good reason because it's hard at that salary number to keep a guy around when you don't know if he's going to play or not. Like that's just the sad reality of it. You as a fan base, as an organization, as the guy himself doesn't know if when he's going to play again because he came into this year we thought healthier than ever. He plays what I think 2 games, Jordan, maybe three.
It was just one.
I didn't want to go
It
that
was
grim off
it
my
was the Bears.
presumptions. Yeah, and then he was out for a week. We thought maybe it's just rest or not playing on turf at the Metrodome in, or I'm sorry, the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. Um, we didn't know if didn't want to play there because of the turf, which is where he injured it first at in practice, and has had opinions on turf his entire injury history since sustaining the first one. But then once we came back to Lambeau against the Saints, he wasn't playing. That's when it was like, oh, okay, like this isn't actually a serious injury, and we don't know. We got the grim news a few weeks later that he'd have a couple surgeries, and it was just not great. Like it's just hard. I'm not saying I don't want him back at his peak performance level because I do, but we
I
don't
don't think
know
that's attainable
how
though.
they're attainable anymore.
I
It's
think
just
I think what happened last year in 2022 was the best that David Bakhtiari will be post first, second round of everything that's happened. Like it's just the nature of just where he's at physically, and that there's been so much damage in a very short amount of time. Like there's multiple instances of trying to get back to being an all pro. And he was the Packers did not go to the playoffs in 2022, but David Bakhtiari put in a hell of a year, even with all the things that he missed at the
yep,
start of the year, limited in practice and stuff like that. Like I give him so much credit for coming back. It's not easy to come back. We're so conditioned to athletes and specifically NFL players to come back after what would be ridiculous layoff times. Like JJ Eddibari tore his ACL in the Dallas Cowboys game, and I'm reading like all this stuff afterwards. It's like, well, he's expected to be back by the start of next year. It's like that's not a normal thing. That's not normal, and we're just used to that. So for me, like I think it's just the this is it's we're going on 21, 22,
3 years.
23, 20. So it's like three plus, almost four, really, because I'm mixing it up with it was a 2020 year, but 2021 playoffs. So we're 3 years past when David Bakhtiari got hurt initially.
Right.
And to kind of be in the same, not ground floor, but you're having to work up that ladder again. That's not easy. That's not easy, especially for a guy that's north of 30, plays at a position that is not forgiving on your body and your bones and everything like that, as he's experienced it firsthand. It's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, I'm with you. It sucks. Like, it just sucks. But yeah, I think Goody's comments made it pretty clear that he's not gonna be
It
back.
felt like a record scratch too, of like no, but no, of watching him talk about Aaron Jones as you
Right.
mentioned, and then it was like, "Grr," and then it's like, David, we will be exploring
Yeah.
different options,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
So, all right. Who's up
Uh,
next?
talked about the defense, his vision for the defense. This is basically Goody's first kind of comments on why the Packers made the change, and he kind of talked about Jeff Hafley, but it wasn't anywhere specifics. He kind of left that up to Matt LaFleur to more answer of Jeff's background and what he wants to play in and everything like that. Anyway, Brian Gutekunst. I thought this year there were moments for us where we were really good, but I think there is much more out there for us. I thought we played pretty consistent football in the front seven. On the back end is where we were probably not as consistent as we needed to be, and I would like for that to be shored up. There'll be there'll probably be some moving pieces there going into next year. It's kind of like how it always is. I want a fast, aggressive, physical defense that plays sound, but the consistency is what we look for.
I think the playing sound part is the biggest thing. Like, you know my opinion on them tackling. Like, they just need to tackle better. They have to. I've pined for a Ravens style defense for a very long time
Hmm.
on, I guess, as a fan and on this podcast as well. Just find a defense that can allow very few yards after catch, very few yards after contact, and I think that is a great defense, just like a great base for a defense, right? Just be on them like white on rice, flies on shit, all that kind of stuff. And they just don't like there's bad tackling sometimes. Like I think it was to not to hark on sad times, but I think the Christian McCaffrey touchdown, the long run, if Devontae Wyatt just wraps up and tackles Christian McCaffrey, it's not a touchdown or a big gain like it was. Like he had him dead to rights in the backfield wrapped up and just let go.
Yeah.
Like they just need to be more sure tacklers. And that'll solve a lot of their problems.
Yeah. Agreed. Um,
I thought this next
but
quote I saw this next quote a bit on Twitter today. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I did see this one, I believe.
Brian Gutekunst was asked whether the Packers have gotten ahead of schedule or what, how do they kind of envisioned post Rodgers life and everything like that. To quote Goody, sometimes when you put too many expectations on young guys, it limits your abilities. I went into this year with few expectations. This is the Green Bay Packers after all, so we expect to compete for championships at all times. But I wanted to see how fast and how quickly this team could get up to speed and compete at a high level. There's adversity, as there always is, and to see them come out of the way that they did was exciting. For every year is a different year. We had a lot of players early in their careers play a lot this year. That's unusual around here, and I think the big thing for them going into year two is that just because you had success in year one doesn't mean that your spot is safe for next year.
We had a lot of players early in their careers play a lot this year. That's unusual around here. That's I think one of the more veiled shots we've ever seen. Like that
Vale, what do you mean?
I think that's a pretty stark shot at how Aaron Rodgers wanted this team ran when he was here. Like I think that's because I mean, you know as well as I do, Rodgers didn't like playing the young guys. He didn't. He didn't like throwing to them at all. And I think that's a big part of what they're made them good this year. Like think about I, I don't want to go into the whole Rodgers part of it, but he liked his veterans. He wanted them on the team. He always fixated on the seventh round, 4 year vet guy that they still had around for some reason. Was never that good. Jake Kumaro, Jeff Janis, the list goes on. They Rodgers leaves. They played the young guys that they drafted to see what they have, and they're good. Like I don't mean to play like look into my mirror ball here, my ponder my orb, but like Devontae was good in year three. What does year one or year two Devontae look like if he gets better run as a rookie, as a second year guy? I don't know. I just think that this way that they approach this year, while not tenable every year, is a good thing to try once in a while. Like it just they fell back into their ways of like I think Randall Cobb coming back on the team last year is a great example of this. Like did they need Randall Cobb? Maybe. Probably not. They could have done without him. They would have known that the problem was more Rodgers than it was everybody else. It maybe gave more time to Dobbs and other players on the team. I don't know. I don't think. I just think this is a. I don't think it's coincidence that they decided to play all their young kids, and they did a lot better, and it looked a lot better at times than it did last year. Because like even
Yeah, I
last
mean,
year when
I
they did
think
well, it didn't look good. It wasn't fun towards the end. Like
no.
their winning streak wasn't fun. It was just they were finding ways to win, and it looked ugly. It looked like the Packers defense or the Packers offense we had seen since 2015. There just wasn't
Yeah.
anything refreshing about it. It was an Aaron Rodgers led offense, not a motion oriented like see what they're giving you Matt LaFleur type of offense.
Yeah. I don't necessarily view that as a shot to Aaron Rodgers. I think it was just the existence of okay, well, we paid the piper. We had to reset. They were in cap hell. They're still in very. It's not as bad as it was, but there was very limited moves that they could only do. So that you had to go all in on playing young guys. you're only going to get younger as time evolved too, especially with injuries, especially where you make the trade for Razul to Buffalo. I think it's more about that, but it's also kind of naturally their instincts of like, we got to build it back up. Like that's just kind of natural. The cycle that you went through with Rodgers towards the end, you made those decisions. You made to go for it, and when you don't, you know, you couldn't do what you did in 2022 anymore to try to balance young and old. It was you have to go no half measures, kind of thing.
I guess. Like I see that point. I see your point where they couldn't do anything. They had to get young because of their cap, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me wanting it to be a shot.
You want positive vibes only?
Go read the Jets article if you haven't, people, on the Athletic. If you want to laugh, if you want a good reason to be, even more of a reason to be happy or clear of that man, go read the Jets article from the Athletic by Deanna Rossini and others. It was a good one, but
Mhm.
I digress.
Um, on free agency plans or whether the Packers will be aggressive this offseason, Brian Gutekunst. I think we're getting into a better spot than in the past. It's never perfect, but I do feel that whatever opportunities are out there to improve our team in free agency, we'll be able to do it.
Works for me.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, works for me.
Um, on their draft pick arsenal, they're expecting we're expecting 11 draft picks total, and we'll have more volume at the top than we've ever had. It gives us a lot of flexibility, whether that's staying and picking, moving around, maybe even trading those picks for veteran players. Who knows? It just gives us a little bit more flexibility. I think that, along with being in a better situation and flexibility there.
That's interesting. That's an interesting little tidbit that they that he said there. Like,
Very.
yeah,
I don't
like
necessarily think it's going to come to fruition, but this is kind of okay. You have a lot of picks. If you're trying to kind of build this out more, are you going to be more patient, or are you going to try to like find you know, what is the catalyst move to kind of state your intentions?
yep, yeah. I don't know. I think it's it's a mystery box thing, right? It's the old Family Guy joke. Do you want the boat or do you want the mystery box? It could be anything. The boat. It could
Could
be
be a
anything in the
boat.
box. It could be a boat. Um, my current opinion. I think I said this in the pod. I forget. I've been mulling over the draft options on here on this pod as well as in the Discord, which you can join at gspn.info as we talk all things Wisconsin sports. But I think currently my preferred plan of attack from a draft standpoint is to keep 25, but trade the Jets second and one of the thirds to move up into the teens to get another first round talent there. Whether like because I forget who it was. I think it has is a good trade partner. Let me pull up Tankathon here as they Tankathon has um, a fun tool where they have draft power rankings where they go and look at like who has the most value for their picks. And notably, I think it's the Saints have pick 14 and pick 45. And so after pick 45, they don't pick for another 103 picks until pick 148.
My God.
My idea is to say, hey, Saints,
A
you.
team that Guri Kunst has uh, participated in draft night trades before.
Mm-hmm,
That's how they get Jair.
yep. Hey, Saints, you currently have two picks in the top 100. Would you like three? And that could mean trading them 41 and 58, the two second round picks, and then getting getting 14 from them, so the Packers would pick at 14 and 25, and then not pick again until uh, 88. Like I think that's a good trade from my Packers perspective. I don't know what the Saints think about that. Obviously, you're dropping 25-ish spots, 27 spots to pick twice in the second round and then once in the third round. So it kind of you take away the first round pick and you could move back a little bit, but that was kind of my pie in the sky pipe dream type of trade. Move up into the teens, draft whether it be Cooley McKinstry or Terry and Arnold, or if you really want to go like tackle at that point, you can do that, or Cooper DeJean if you want to draft him. Like there's options for you if you move up into the mid high teens. You get back down to 25, you're kind of looking at a third or fourth best tackle. Maybe you take a swing on Keon Mitchell or um, Cameron Kitchens at safety. But regardless, that that's my hope for that is they have those assets. They have 11 of them. They can't keep. I don't think they use all 11, frankly, because
I don't think so either.
that's a
I
lot
think
of
that is a
players.
lock.
It's a lot of players to put on this already young team. They need to get like either high level young talent, which is up in the first round of the draft, or like he said, trade them for veterans. I checked. Buda Baker has a club option for next year at $14 million at safety. That could be a stopgap and sign him to an extension, but I think he's going to be getting a lot more money than the Packers can afford to pay Jair and Buda Baker for what it's worth. But that's just my 2 cents on that. I think I'd rather consolidate the picks into better picks versus paying veterans. Like I like this. I would like this team to stay somewhat young yet, but be talented while young.
Yeah, I not to. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, not to trade your picks for middle to near end of their prime guys, because that's who you're gonna get, right? Like with the with a lot of picks they have a first, 2 seconds, and I think 2/3. Yeah, the other six of those picks are after the third round, and you don't really get high level players for those kind of picks usually, unless you're
Yeah.
the Panthers and trade Christian McCaffrey for a song. Regardless, that's my take on the free agents versus picking picks kind of thing.
Last one here. Brian Gutekunst was asked about Rasheed Walker. Um, quote Goody. I think he did a great job. You got to give this kid a lot of credit. And his work ethic over the offseason, he improved tremendously. He's very plug and play, whether it's on the left or right. I'm hoping that we'll have a lot of competition in every room, much less the offensive line, but he did a lot of good things. He's got a bright future, and we're really excited about him.
I think rightfully so. He played well this year, so
Very.
they'll probably draft another
This is a
tackle.
very good offensive tackle class. I think the Packers will be very tested with whether they believe Rasheed Walker is the blind side for Jordan Love's future, or do they move guys around? Because now, for I mean, going into the year, I think they carried like 11 offensive linemen. It was a lot. Now, John Running Jr., I mean, he might be, could, not might be, he looks like he's gone. A lot of the guys that they've carried on the roster, whether it's Caleb Jones, Luke Tenuta, do those guys pan out? Like,
They're also
it gets
tackles as
thin.
well.
Yes, they are. It gets thin pretty quick. So how they manage beyond the starting five is going to be really interesting.
Interesting. It's gonna be interesting for sure. Alrighty. Thank you, Jordan, for running through Goody's press conference. I feel like you you spoke to his demeanor in class very well.
Thank you.
That is a way to say good job.
Thank you.
um, last but not least, we're gonna revisit our preseason predictions. But before that, we're gonna go through the cheese board tally one last time, just so everyone's aware of where we ended up. Leading the way was Jordan Love, obviously, with 8, followed not so closely with by Jaden Reed at 4. So Jordan Love doubles up the rest of the field. Preston Smith and Romeo Doubs had 3. Rashawn Gary, Russell Douglas, Devontae Wyatt, Elton Jenkins, Kenny Clark, Isaiah McDuffie, Rudy Ford, Aaron Jones, and Dontavian Wicks with 2. And Quay Walker, AJ Dillon, Zach Tom, TJ Slayton, Carrington Valentine, Anders Carlson, Christian Watson, Keyshawn Nixon, Tucker Kraft, JJ Enigbare, Bo Melton, and Carl Brooks all with 1. And so, with that being said, we had 20 preseason predictions, one of which we do not know the answer to yet, but we know that we both got it wrong. So, we will start with number 1. Predicting Jordan Love's stat line as a first-year starter. We had over under 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 13 INTs, and a 93.8 passer rating. You and I all were... we both said under 4,000, which we were wrong on. I said a push at 28 touchdowns, which I was wrong on. I think he had 31.
I can read his full stat line here.
Okay, I think he had 31, but I forget.
He threw for 4,159 passing yards. He threw for 32 touchdowns.
Fuck.
He had 11 interceptions. He had a 64.2 completion percentage. What was the other thing that we...
Passer rating.
Passer rating, he had a... Where's passer rating? Am I blind? No, I'm not. He had a 96.1 passer rating.
Damn. So I went 1 for 4. You went 0 for 4.
I went over 4.
The only one I got right was under 13 interceptions. I was off on the other ones. So, next up, which Packer will have more rushing TDs in 2023? We both said Aaron Jones. I believe that is right. Is it not? Or no? Go for it. What? Tell me.
It is not right.
Damn it! AJ Dillon.
Nope. It is Jordan Love with 4.
Oh, that's right, because Jones didn't have any of his last 3 weeks, and oh yeah.
He had 2. Andrew Dillon had 2. Jaden Reed had 2.
That's funny. Will the Packers have 2 1,000-yard rushers this year? We both said no. So we were right that one. Go team.
Indicated.
Go team. Which Packer will have the most receiving yards? We were both wrong on this one. Christian Watson was both of our answers. I'm pretty sure it was...
it was Jaden Reed.
Jaden Reed. Yep.
793.
Yep. Which Packer will have the most receiving touchdowns? I said Dobbs. You said Watson.
Dobbs was tied for first
first?
with Jaden Reed.
That's right,
8
baby.
touchdowns apiece. Christian Watson, despite only playing 9 games and catching 28 passes, he had 5.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's a lot more than I thought.
Yeah, it's a lot more, way more than I thought. Packer leader in sacks. We both said Rashawn Gary. Did Preston lead this?
It was Rashawn Gary by 1.
Okay.
9 sacks.
Okay. He could have had a better season for sure. Like, hopefully that number hits double digits next year.
Oh, God. The next was...
Yeah, God. Which Pack will have the most interceptions? I don't think Jair had one all year. He had one in...
he had one at least in playoffs,
The
but
playoffs.
that's obviously not what we're talking about.
Right. That's...
Did you name the Packers leader in interceptions this year?
It's Rudy
By the way,
Ford.
the Packers had... What?
Is it Rudy Ford?
It is Rudy Ford with
Let's
2.
go!
Packers had, for the regular season,
Oh,
7 interceptions.
that's so bad.
That is dismal. No wonder they
God.
got a freaking
Yeah.
secondary
Yeah.
coach.
Which Packer so will the Packers have a special teams touchdown this year? That was the Bears game. Keyshawn Nixon brought it back like a ways, and I was like, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it, and he didn't. Oh,
We're both in
we
on
both
that
said
one.
yes. They did not have one this year. Will Anders Carlson make 75% or more of his field goals? I said under. You said over. as we said earlier in the podcast, he went over at 81.8. You are muted. I cannot hear what you were saying. Still muted, or you're yelling way too loud. That
Whispering.
ride or die. You are on life support, pal. Who will be the breakout player for the Packers this season? I said Christian Watson. You said Zach Tom. I'm wrong. I think there's an argument for you, despite it being for sure Jaden Reed.
I think I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have avoided going rookies.
Did we? If that's the
I
case, then I think you're pretty solid. I think that's
feel like, I mean, Jay Reed, you without it, Jay Reed is probably it, but
yeah,
Zach Tom is up there.
yep, for sure, especially amongst the not rookies. So nice job there. Who wins the NFC North this year? NFC North this year. I was drinking the Kool Aid and I said the Packers. Oh, I missed one. I
Oh,
apologize. I missed one.
yeah, yeah.
Who will finish the? Which pack will finish with the most cheeses this season? We both said Aaron Jones. Obviously, we're both wrong. Um, who wins the NFC North this year? I said the Packers drinking the Kool Aid. You correctly picked the Lions. So nice job with that one. Will the Packers make the playoffs this year? We both said yes. Let's go, baby. Over under. Packers have 2.5 Pro Bowlers. We both said over, and we were both wrong.
Both wrong. Kenny Clark was a fill-in.
Yep. Predict if the Packers will have any major award winners this season. If so, who? I said Matt LaFleur for Coach of the Year. I don't think he's even nominated.
I don't think
Um,
so.
Rashawn Gary is also not nominated for Comeback Player of the Year. Um, I don't know how you can beat Joe Flacco or DeMar Hamlin. um,
Yeah.
regardless, um, will Aaron Rodgers' snaps with the Jets be 65% or higher? We both said yes.
I wanted to go no on this one. This is probably the one I regret the most because I knew that
Really.
offensive line was bad. I knew that offensive line was bad. It turns out that whole team is a sham. Everybody's leaking Jets crap all over the floor.
Positive vibes only, Jordan. Positive
Robert
vibes
Saleh just
only.
took my phone away. Just like, I just want to make sure it's not you, right? It's not you.
It's not you, right? Um, who will have a higher draft pick this year? The Jets or the Packers? The Packers. We both said we were both
We're both
wrong,
wrong.
which is I'm not too sad about that.
Nope.
Who will come out of the NFC this year? I said the Eagles. You said the Seahawks. I was closer to that one than you
Sure,
are.
that they were
Taking
playoff.
that
They were in the
dub.
playoffs.
Taking that dub. Uh,
You don't. You make
I
up for
don't
it in the
take
next one.
I don't take the dub on the next one. Who will come out of the AFC this year? I said the Bengals. You said the Bills. You were closer on that one. And then we were both wrong on who will win Super Bowl 58. I said the Eagles. You said the Bills. Neither team is in the Super Bowl. So
No.
so that's that on the 2023 season from us. What do you think, Jordan?
It is very interesting. I mean, we'll have grades too.
Yeah.
That'll be, but to think of like where we were, what, 6 months ago, and just like this is how we thought the 2023 NFL season was going.
Yeah.
And it's not even just that we were off base in terms of league wide stuff outside of me picking the Lions to be the NFC North winner. Packers, like, it does not resemble. We were off on Jordan Love, and thankfully, off on Aaron Jones injuries.
Yeah. Yeah,
Christian
I'll say
Watson,
to be fair, a lot of this is injury based.
a lot of it is a
Like
lot.
I don't think we could have predicted that Aaron Jones would only play like 9 games in the regular season.
No,
That Christian Watson would play 7 or 8 games in the regular season. I don't think we were too far off. I think our reasoning was sound for sure.
yeah,
So there's that. Anything else, Mr. Tresky?
no. I am very. It'll be barring some breaking news. I think probably grades will be our
It's next
next
week. Yeah,
next thing to tackle.
that's right.
But then now that we're in the off season, I'm very excited about this draft. I'm digging in. Been digging in this week. Obviously, with the new defense coordinator, it kind of opens up what is possible, what directions they may be leaning.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting very excited. Getting very excited for the nitty gritty and how Packers football may be shaped going forward.
Yeah, we fell into this trap last year, where we were like, "Yeah, season's done. We get to kind of take a little break, kind of get to have like a little bit of rest time." We forgot that the rest time in the NFL season doesn't come until like May. Like
Yes.
we have stuff to talk about every week for the next 3 months, 4 months.
Hmm.
So, with that being said, we'll be back with you guys next week for some grades on the Packers season, player by player. So, be on the lookout for that. You can catch all of the GSPN shows at gspn.info, including the Bucks Pod, the Eurostep, and Win in Six, as they continue to talk about the tumultuous last couple of weeks for the Bucks. Um, the trade deadline is Tuesday as you're listening to this, so
Next Thursday.
it's a Thursday.
It's always Thursday.
I thought it was a Tuesday. Alas, that's why I'm not a Bucks podcaster. Um, the draft, the deadline is next Thursday. We'll have the Bucks boys. Will have all sorts of coverage on that.
Bucks boys.
Should the Bucks make a trade, they absolutely should. As I mentioned at the top of the podcast, go check out Cruising for a Bruising. Pitchers and catchers report in 2 weeks. And a pitcher reporting to Baltimore and not Milwaukee is Corbin Burns. Adam McGee and Andrew Snyder are going to have the
Very
latest
jubilant
and
about
great.
this.
Yeah, I'm sick of it. I'm glad that they got something for him. Um, Adam McGee and Andrew Snyder will have the latest and greatest about that trade on Cruising for a Bruising. I'm guessing hitting your podcast feeds. If not, they're already quite soon um, on Friday. But that's just me speculating. I don't know when they're recording. But you can also check out Adam and Andrew's other podcasts. Make time for this while you're waiting for Cruising for a Bruising to drop as they get ready for Oscar season as the nominees were announced. They just released a new episode, and I have to go look at it. Oh, I'm so smart. They were reacting to the Oscar nominations and sharing their most anticipated films of 2024. That podcast is fresh off the table, off the oven, out of the oven. I don't care. 26th, so not even a week old. Go check it out. So that does it for us, folks. As I mentioned, back next week for grades for some of the Packers. Be sure to check it out. Like, subscribe, follow, review, all over that stuff. Wherever you listen to podcasts, if you're watching on YouTube, click that subscribe button, like button, and we appreciate it. So thank you for listening. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.